This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
Thrilling games with thrilling players involved on tap for this weekend in the NFL for the divisional round. We, of course, have Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson, but also a lot of other superstars still in the mix, which makes the prop betting process very, very fun for us. Today, our job is to break down what player props stand out at FanDuel Sportsbook across the divisional round. Annie Nader will join me to break down her thoughts on that, and there are touchdown picks and an SGP she likes for this weekend's games. Welcome on into Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research, joined here, as mentioned, by Annie Nader. You can find her on X at anader33. Check out her work over at FanDuel Research, where she's doing not just NFL, but also NBA content for us over there. Annie, happy divisional round to you. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, Jim. Very excited for this weekend. I feel like it's like our last true week of really having a full slate. So yep. It'll be very exciting. And of course, wraps up with Josh Allen versus Lamar. So it'll be awesome.
Yeah. And I would argue it's the best weekend of the year because we get 4 games, which is enough, but also like it's all the good teams are involved again because there's no Chiefs, there's no Lions in the wild card round. So we get those teams back in the mix. We get, obviously, like you said, Jackson versus Allen, which is going to be a lot of fun there. So probably my favorite weekend. I don't want to say the year because I do really like get a kick out of the Super Bowl, doing a lot of stuff, hanging out with people for that. But like best football watching weekend, ignoring the outside stuff, at least for me of the year, I would say.
Yeah, I would say and also for betting, probably for props betting, it's an awesome week because we still have 4 games to look at. We have some samples to look at last week from the wild card round, so it's a great week.
And we're going to talk about the samples too. We're going to dig into some players who may have had role changes this past week and what that means for their prop markets for this week. And then we'll go through Saturday and Sunday props, touchdown bets, and as mentioned, Annie's favorite SGP for the divisional round. But first, a reminder to make sure you are subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. Our NFL Best Bet show for the divisional round with Megan Payton is already up. Talked about some props with Megan as well. Her thoughts on all 4 games and which bets she likes at FanDuel Sportsbook. Also broke down the college football national championship between Ohio State and Notre Dame with Dr. Ed Feng. Got his read on that one. Talk player props there and a bit of divisional round with Ed as well. Both those shows up on the Covering the Spread podcast feed right now. So go search for Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe. And if you like what you hear, give us a 5-star rating and review as well. And of course, we are live on the YouTube page. I'll be going through my first look at the conference championships next week. That'll be at noon Eastern on Monday. Then we'll talk, of course, our usual shows Thursday and Friday as well. So search for the YouTube page, subscribe there, turn on notifications, and leave us a thumbs up. We appreciate those of you who have done so already. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel takes the NFL playoffs to the next level because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's $300 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Plus, when you win, you'll get paid instantly. And get started with $300 in bonus bets. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit MD Gambling Help in Maryland. Help is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Now, Annie, my 2 favorite subsets for betting props in the playoffs are guys whose role change and quarterback rushing things. And so I want to talk to you about the first layer there, about players whose role changed. You know, they're not conserving guys for late in the season because we are now late in the season. Any players catch your eye as far as getting role changes last week that could impact their prop markets for the divisional round?
Yeah, I think, as we talked about, one of the best parts about the divisional round is that we still get to watch 8 different teams play, but we're also not going in blind. Besides the Lions and Chiefs, we got a good look and have some solid data for players and how they were utilized in the wild card round. I think for me, like the running backs are the first place I'm looking because they're definitely not being conserved anymore for high leverage because they're playing in high leverage games now. Saquon Barkley, he played 87.5% of the snaps last week. That was his 5th most of the season. James Cook, to me, is the main one who really stands out. He had a great role by his standards last week. His overall snap rate wasn't huge since he got iced out a little in the blowout script, but his snaps were up for the majority of that game, and he's someone I'm definitely going to be looking back at this week. And then, as you mentioned, it's all systems go for quarterbacks who use their legs. And there's also other situations where I think we have more questions than answers. The Texans, I'm just a little confused by right now because, I mean, they disappointed me all season. Then last week they come out, and now them getting the Chiefs this week, like, I don't really know how to deal with that. So I think I'm just going to stay off the Texans. The same thing kind of goes for, like, Philadelphia's passing offense. Like, A.J. Brown has had a kind of weird up and down season. Basically was more or less ignored last week. So since his props aren't like super down right now, I think there are certain instances where I'm going to be on players who I feel like are all systems go this week. And then other ones where I have a few more questions, I think I'm just going to stay off those.
Well, the James Cook one you called in advance. You were on his over rushing plus receiving last week. I bet that because of you, so thank you. And he went over this, I think it was like 70.5, 72.5, somewhere in there, like in the first quarter, or maybe it was in the first half. I know it was very quick, and I was kicking myself for not taking an alt market there. But you were on James Cook there. It paid off, and we'll see if we see even more James Cook potentially in the divisional round as well. Let's start things off, Andy, by talking about the 2 Saturday games. Texans versus Chiefs. As mentioned, Texans may be a no-fly zone for you, but then also Commanders versus Lions. Which player props are you digging on Saturday?
Yeah, let's start off with this Lions-Commanders game and check out Terry McLaurin over 68.5 receiving yards. McLaurin, on the season, he's seen a 23% target share and a 41% air yard share. That's bumped up to a 27% target share and 44% air yard share since Noah Brown has been out. And in a relevant 5-game sample where Noah Brown was out and De'Ami Brown was in, McLaurin saw a 30% target share and 52% air yard share. So I think that sets him up to have another really big game this week. Last week, he caught 7 of his 10 targets for 89 yards. Based on his relevant market shares, I think we can reasonably expect him to have another double-digit target game. And of course, the game script is expected to work in our favor here. I mean, the Lions favored by 8.5 points. We know how quickly they can jump out to a lead. They let up the most targets and receiving yards to wideouts this season for a reason. So, and when Jaden Daniels is fighting back through the air, we know who the ball is going to more than 50% of the time for those air yards. So McLaurin at 68.5 here feels like a pretty low bar, all things considered.
Yeah, I could not agree more with his role here because, as you mentioned, he's kind of the guy on this team, but also stylistically fits well in this context where he's facing a Lions team that plays a lot of man defense. And like, you're not asking De'Ami Brown and Zach Ertz to beat man defense. If they're playing man, you know where the ball is going. It's going to Terry McLaurin, but also they're indoors. And you talked about those air yards for McLaurin, and I have a lot more faith in someone who gets a lot of long balls converting on those when they are indoors, which is what we get here for McLaurin. So I think that he just kind of isn't the perfect setup for him, both because of the defense they're facing and because of the environment to potentially come through on the volume he's been getting all year long.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think you can also check out McLaurin in the alt market or longest reception for those reasons, because he is a long ball candidate and he's set up to succeed in that realm this weekend.
Yeah, just looking at those quickly right now, McLaurin to get 80 plus yards, plus 138. He is plus 280 to get a hundo in this one. But overall, McLaurin, good guy to target for this week as the Lions take on the Commanders. Couple games on Sunday, too. Rams versus Eagles, and then Ravens versus Bills as well. When you look at those 2 games, Annie, what props stand out to you there?
Yeah, starting with this Rams-Eagles game, I like Saquon Barkley over 21.5 rush attempts. This is a prop I've kind of been going back to lately, and I like it again this week. It's been kind of a weird season or a few games for the Eagles passing game. I don't really know what to expect from them in this matchup, but I feel like we can rely on Saquon's rushing volume. He's gone over 21.5 rush attempts in 10 out of 17 games this season. And dating back to week 8, he's done so in 8 of 11 games. So that's a 72.7% hit rate on the over through his last 11. That's pretty good. And last week in the wild card round, we saw him handle 25 carries and play 82.5% of the snaps. As mentioned, that was his 5th highest snap rate of the season. They were holding on to a lead in that game, which obviously helped his volume, but they come into this one even heavier favorites than they were last week. So the market, at least, is expecting them to be in a positive game script. And the Rams, they rank 16th against the pass, 22nd against the run. They've also, the Rams have had some time of possession issues this season, and the Eagles are great at winning the clock, and they're doing that through Saquon. So he's by far their most consistent and impactful player. And with the weather also potentially being an issue in this game, I don't hate the idea of betting on volume rather than efficiency, and I want to do that through Saquon.
Yeah, you mentioned the weather, and I don't know what to think of this game. It's very confusing to me. It's easily the most confuddling game of the weekend. If we can toss in some snow, I'll feel a lot better about it. Like, okay, I'm not going to worry about, trying to diagnose this game. I'm just going to watch a snow game and enjoy it. So I'm kind of hoping that does filter in. I'm curious why it's 21.5. Like, why is it not a little bit higher based on the stuff you've mentioned, based on the fact that it's a high leverage game? They're not saving Saquon for later on, and he is clearly the engine of their offense. Like, I guess I'm a bit confused why it's not higher than 21.5.
Yeah, last week it was set at 20.5. I recommended on FanDuel Research. The week before, or I guess he had a game off, and then 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, I think it was set at 19.5, and he ended up getting like 29 carries in that one. So it's been set low. I think it's just a situation where it's like, I'm going to go back on it until I get burned by it.
And even if it's not efficient, they're going to keep going to it. I think that's their best route to victory here. So I think that does make a lot of sense. So Annie is on Saquon Barkley over 21.5 minus 120. Other game on Sunday, of course, is the Bills and the Ravens. Really tight game script here. High total. What are you seeing in this one, Annie?
Yeah, I'm going back to James Cook, rushing and receiving. I'm going to go to the alt market actually and go to 90 plus rushing and receiving yards. I think it's sitting at plus 175 right now, which
perfect
is a great number. So this season, he's gone for 90 yards in 7 out of 14 games where he played at least 40% of the snaps. That includes last week. He also actually went for 126 yards against the Patriots, despite only playing 36% of the snaps in that one, which is just crazy and goes to show like how much he can do with such little workload. But it's all to say that these plus 175 odds show value. That aforementioned 50% hit rate, that's a big difference. And I think it's especially shows value once we consider what happened last Sunday. His overall snap rate wasn't anything special, but it was much higher than normal in the first half and really through the first 3 quarters until getting iced out due to the game script. But the Bills are feeding him the ball when he's on the field. Like last week, the Broncos went out, scored a touchdown immediately, and the Bills came back on their first drive and gave him 4 carries for 29 yards. Like they really, really are utilizing him and giving him those runs when he's on the field, and his snap rate has been rising. So I think everything's colliding at the right time. We saw the same thing happen last year in the playoffs too. Cook handled 18 carries in both of those postseason games after doing that just twice in the regular season. And, he hasn't been getting a ton of work in the passing game lately, but it's been there throughout the season. And the Ravens funneled the 6th most targets and the 3rd most receiving yards to running backs this season. So I think all signs are pointing to another great week for Cook. And I'm okay going in on rushing and receiving because I think there's definitely a chance that passing game work comes back.
And I think the cool thing with him as a pass catcher is they get their running backs dynamic targets. A lot of them have been to Ty Johnson recently, but like James Cook gets downfield targets, which is pretty wild for a running back. So like you said, the snap rate was up this past week, 56% in the first 3 quarters against the Broncos. He's going to be on the field probably most every early down snap. I think Ty Johnson will still get the late down snaps, but like with the way that they've been operating recently, James Cook is a guy they trust. I think that I like about him is that he just gets kind of yardage in bunches. And like you said, he hit this number at a pretty high rate this year, just without getting a roll bump. So I took this one earlier in the week too. I took the base. I probably should add an alt as well, but like I'm fully on board with buying in James Cook once again. I think that this number is just too forgiving not to.
Yeah, and that's even with Josh Allen being like obsessed with Ty Johnson. But yeah, I think it's a very forgiving for Cook.
Yeah, Josh Allen calling Ty Johnson the best 3rd down back in the league is a little hyperbolic. So maybe we'll scale it back a little bit here, Josh. Chill out a tiny bit, but I do respect the faith in his teammates. So Annie is on James Cook, 90 plus rushing plus receiving yards. That is plus 175. I am very on board with that one as well. Okay, Annie, let's talk about some touchdown props. Where are you seeing value in the touchdown markets at FanDuel Sportsbook for this week?
Yeah, let's go to this Rams-Eagles game again, and I'm gonna look at Tyler Higbee anytime
Oh,
touchdown, which this is my long shot call, I guess, of the week, but it's sitting at plus 430 right now. Yeah. And this is one where I think the odds are just like a little too high for me to pass up based on his path to scoring. So he only played 3 games in the regular season coming off his ACL injury. His snap rate rose with each of those games, played 28, then 32, then 42% of the snaps in that span. During that time, despite those low snap rates, he held a 37% red zone target share and scored 2 touchdowns. Obviously, one of those games was with Garoppolo, but they kept him heavily involved in scoring territory all game. And then last Monday, he comes out and is the star of the show for a quarter before leaving with a chest injury. He got all 5 of his targets for 58 yards, was playing great. They were clearly focused on getting him involved, and they overall just seemed to really like him. And now everything the team has been saying is that he's going to be good to go for the divisional round this week. So I kind of like him to score at these odds. I think what's pushing me there even further is that I trust Matthew Stafford to throw touchdowns in the playoffs. He has a proven track record of that. And Cooper Kupp is evidently hurt or something's going on with him. Stafford and Puka Nacua connect on everything but touchdowns. So there's just the Rams get a little weird with it when it's not Kyron Williams. So I'm calling my shot a little here for sure, but I kind of think Tyler Higbee could be a sneaky touchdown option this week.
as you mentioned, that's plus 430 at FanDuel Sportsbook. And I thought it was interesting, Sean McVay, after the Week 18 game, saying like his athleticism is the key for them because like they don't have a lot of like amazing athletes on the team. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, they're good players. Kyron Williams, good player, but they're not amazing athletes. And like relative to position, Higbee, even off the ACL, kind of is. And like you said, he was a focal point early on in that game on Monday night. Spitting up blood, goes to the hospital, but Sean McVay was, he's fine. You know, it's like, cool. All right. Football's a weird sport. I don't understand these people. They're psychopaths. But I think that that's encouraging to see that kind of usage. You're not paying a heavy tax of plus 430. You're not paying any tax, frankly. A plus, his odds the same as Colby Parkinson's. So it's like, and DeMarcus Robinson's right there too. So I feel like you're just getting him at a good number, despite how involved he was last week.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like he powered them through that whole game, even though he was there for a quarter. So I don't know. I think he's a sneaky option this week, but we'll see.
Okay, I like that. That is Tyler Higbee plus 430 in Rams Eagles. Any other touchdown bets you're targeting across this week?
Yeah, I'm going to do an oldie but a goodie. Josh Allen, anytime touchdown. Talked about this one on the show a few times now, but it's been going between even money and plus 105. So, which is a spot that I'll take. Yeah, plus 105 right now. So we've talked about this one before. It's fairly clear cut for me. Since the start of last season, Allen has played 37 total games between the regular season and postseason. In this span, he scored at least 1 touchdown in 22 of those games. That's good for a 59.5% hit rate, which gives us a little over a 10% difference with the market here and the hit rate versus these implied probability here. And this game, I mean, it has a close spread, a high total. The Ravens pick up a lot of penalties, so I could see like a situation happening where like the Bills get yards to the 1 yard line. And I mean, the reason to always like Allen to score is because he has multiple passes to get there. I mean, if the Bills are on the 1 yard line, that's where they're going. And he can also just like do Josh Allen stuff with his legs in a different scenario. So plus 105 here, I'm going back on it. I had to lay off last week because I believe it was at like minus 125, and it ended up being a great week to lay off. So I'm back on it this week.
Yeah, last week I was annoyed because I forgot to bet it before the games. Like, okay, high implied total for Josh Allen. He does the tush push, stuff like that. I was like, okay, I forgot to bet it, but like the Broncos scored first. It's actually better because it sets up the game script well for them. So he'll have to push for 4 quarters, stuff like that. And I pulled up the live odds and he was minus 170 for a touchdown. I was like, dang it, I can't do this. Like, I can't justify this number. So I had to lay off last week. Did take this one already for this week too. Plus 105 for Josh Allen. Just like it's the tush push. It's a massive implied total. Everything just aligns well where he shouldn't be plus money given all these converging factors, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It's been a thing all season where if it's plus money, like I'm going to have to take it.
Correct. Exactly. Could not agree more there. Okay, Andy, I'm going to give you one SGP across the divisional round. Where are you going? What's your favorite same game parlay for this round of the playoffs?
I'm staying in this Ravens-Bills game. Let's start with doing 2 touchdowns together, Derrick Henry and Josh Allen.
Okay.
This is one where they're kind of both of these scoring props are kind of like been gold mines for SGPs this season, just because they both score a lot. And sometimes, I mean, Josh Allen, we can bet one off, but Derrick Henry, like, he's not someone who we want to like lay those minus 210 odds, but in an SGP scenario, that works great. This is one where I just like them both to score because of all the obvious reasons. And it also, like, this isn't very like game script dependent, which is nice. Like, you can sit back, enjoy the game. Like, if it's a high scoring, low scoring, like, these two are going to be involved and have many opportunities to score. And Josh Allen, multiple paths to scoring. Derrick Henry can score from basically anywhere. So I like how these two fit together. And then I'm going to add on the James Cook prop that we did, 90 plus rushing and receiving yards. Talked about all the reasons I liked those, but I think these just fit well together in that I like them all individually, and I'm getting really great odds when I put them together, and they don't clash in a negative way at all. So getting this at plus 664 is real good.
Yeah, I mean, you benefit too. James Cook busts off a long run and gets tackled at the one. You can get the Josh Allen. You can they can actually work together, which is weird. You would think they would kind of work against each other, but they actually do, in a way, work well together. So if you add Derrick Henry anytime touchdown, Josh Allen anytime touchdown with James Cook 90 plus rushing plus receiving yards, plus 664 at FanDuel Sportsbook. But like you said, they all fit well together. There's nothing super unrealistic here. And it allows us to enjoy the football game, which is kind of like the point of betting, is to enjoy football, sit back, bet responsibly, so you can kind of just like enjoy things. And this, I think, aligns well with that vision.
Yeah, and I'm happy we don't have to pick a side here of Ravens or Bills, because I like both teams a lot. I like both quarterbacks a lot, and I'm hoping for a good game.
My model has the Ravens favored by 0.2 if you rule out Zay Flowers, and I'm very happy to sit this one out and not bet either side, so I could not agree more with that. So again, that three-leg SGP, Derrick Henry and Josh Allen to score, James Cook 90 plus, rushing plus receiving yards, plus 664 at FanDuel Sportsbook. That is all that we have here for today and this week on Covering the Spread. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in, as always, throughout this week. Back with you once again next week, again, Monday. Going to give my initial thoughts on the conference championship games, spreads and totals there, and which bets I like. To get that as it is posted, search for Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe, and again, leave us a 5-star rating and review, and also subscribe to the YouTube page where we'll be live there noon Eastern on Monday. Annie, appreciate the time as always. Enjoy the football, enjoy the basketball this weekend too. We'll talk to you once again in the very near future.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
You can find Annie on X at anader33. I am on X and Blue Sky at JimSannes. You can also find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work on the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you with your bets across the divisional round. Enjoy the football. We'll talk to you once again Monday to break down the conference championships. This has been Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast.